There's going to be a third unit in a garage that has been converted into a garden suite.
So today we're going to be doing a tour of an actual garden suite project in the city of Hamilton that my client Seif has been working on. It's now completed. It was taken from a single family home and converted into 3 units, one of them being in a garage that has now been converted into an actual garden suite. So Seif is a contractor in the city, which is very valuable because he's going to tell us some of the challenges he dealt with and some of the things to look out for if someone's looking to do something similar down the line, especially in the city of Hamilton. So I think it's super valuable for anyone that's looking to do a similar project. I'm going to leave his info down below as well if you want to get a hold of him. He works on a ton of these now with various investors, including his own projects. And I'll leave my info down below as well if you want to get in touch and discuss similar types of properties or projects. But yeah, we're going to jump into the video now.
So I'm here with my client Seif. We were looking for his next big project. He's a general contractor. He does a lot of work in the city of Hamilton specifically, and he's an investor. So he's one of those few rare people that not only is a contractor and takes on big jobs, but he actually invests in them himself. So we were looking for something in this changing market that would make sense from cash flow numbers and that perspective where, you know, we can actually buy a property and even with high interest rates, potentially cash flow. And the best part about a lot of this stuff is you can recoup a lot of the costs you put in back. Obviously, a lot of people nowadays are buying single family homes, doing duplex conversions, you know, adding a second unit. But this project is very unique. Not only is there a single family home with a second legal unit, there's going to be a third unit in a garage that has been converted into a garden suite. So Seif, like, going into this, what were you kind of looking for, I guess, as an investor? What was your goal for this project?
The garden suites are a low-hanging fruit. Everybody's talking about them. They're super popular. From a value sense, it's all there. You have a separate detached structure, and it's renting at amazing rent. It's really a quality asset. So what I was looking for is, okay, it's a big home, so it can easily be split into a duplex. So what we ended up doing is we did a 4-bedroom unit upstairs and a 2-bedroom in the basement. And then the garage was a separate 1-bed. And I like this a lot because obviously interest rates are up. So it's really hard to service debt these days, and you really need premium rent and quality assets to be able to service the debt. This property right here rents for about $2,800, $2,000, and another $2,000. So wow. It's a good amount of rent.
Yeah, so you're getting almost $7,000, exactly. $7,000 a month.
Plus utilities.
And then we also forgot to mention, you have almost like a second full lot almost. It's like a double lot property on a corner lot. Yeah. And I think when we were looking for it, I know when I was looking on the MLS, I saw that one of your neighbors actually has a portion of their property that they severed off and they were looking to sell. So there is that possibility here too down the line, because as you and I know, every year the city keeps changing. Yeah. We don't know if they're going to let us maybe even sever this thing off next year, or they're going to let us.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, so things keep changing. So just having options and flexibility, like having more land, having like ability to add units and detached structures, everything adds value because the province and the city are changing so frequently on like what they're allowing to accommodate housing that you're going to see a lot of opportunities. So let's go inside and take a look.
Yeah, let's go through. So you'll see over here, we split it into 3 units. So you have all separate meters. Each unit has its own panel. So every tenant is billed separately for all this stuff.
I remember when you showed me the actual kitchen. It's probably like one of the most unique kitchens I've seen, because as an agent, I see a lot of properties, like people that flip properties, new properties, renovations, and this is like very different. It stands out. And I was surprised when he mentioned green, because he told me he was going with the green kitchen, but this really like, it works. So what was, I guess, like the big picture of the plan, like when you saw the garage, like what did you kind of want to do? And
so the space is, it's pretty tight, not because from a square footage standpoint. Square footage, it's about, I don't know, 350, 360, something like that. But it's tight in the sense that it's narrow. And narrow kind of, it kills things because you're stuck between a hallway and a bathroom. Hallway, no matter what, you gotta have about 3 feet, and then the bathroom, you gotta have 8, 9 feet to really be comfortable. So right away, that puts you at 12 feet, right, finished, which means rough, that's 13 feet, and we didn't even have that here. So it's pretty tight in terms of how narrow it is. So we knew we were gonna get only 1 bedroom, obviously. So we had to do this kind of hybrid design. So we have the small living area here. And then what everybody's doing now is they're putting the heat pumps. That way it's all electric, and then it gets metered separately. And then we have this kitchen. Obviously, we have to go with an island / peninsula, right? Because just to combine the spaces, because there's no room for a breakfast area or something like that. So we made use of the space as best as possible. There's a mechanical room that's housed over here. I mean,
Nice.
we can't really do much.
No, but this is nice because it's kind of away from everything, right? And
People can use that exactly. People can use that as storage. And the reason we made it so big is because this is where you're going to be putting the living room, and this is where the heat pump is. So if you have this as half the wall, you know, it kind of messes up your living space. Where you're going to put the TV? There's an electrical panel right here. So we just said this is mechanical / closet.
Okay. No, it works well because this is like a good sized closet.
So we did a 3-piece bath. It's cool. It's all black. It's curbless. So the whole floor is waterproofed.
Yeah, I mean,
no
this
door.
is taller than a lot of the basements that you see in most houses. So even if something does feel smaller, it'll feel bigger than a basement. So
yeah, you can't compare it to a basement.
Yeah.
And then there's the bedroom. The bedroom's a decent size. It was actually almost too big, so we ended up putting the laundry in here and then the double closet in here.
Okay.
So this whole space was obviously 3 feet bigger because that wall wasn't here. And then this one as well. So it's pretty spacious bedroom for a 1-bed for sure.
So I got a question for you. How did you come up with the idea for these doors? Because I think I saw it on one of your other projects. Yeah. I've never seen them before. I think you're the only one. And it really stands out. It's like a signature, I guess, look for you guys now. Yeah,
we're using them a lot. They're a special order masonite door. They're a product you can buy from the manufacturer. If you know someone that's distributing it, that's even better as well. But then there's a whole bunch of different designs that they have in these catalogs that look minimalist and modern. And it's a very small upgrade, dollar-wise, but it makes a very big difference because you come in and you're like, hey, look, this is not a standard door.
No,
something about the space feels different.
Yeah, and just with the black, like it really stands out. Okay, so it looks like you obviously you've done a lot of these types of projects. So some of the challenges you ran into, being that it was a pretty big rental, pretty big project still.
So the bedrock was obviously a challenge because we didn't actually know this before starting the job, or we didn't even put 2 and 2 together. We've done tons of work up the mountain. Everybody knows on the mountain it's bedrock.
Yeah.
But then sometimes when you're getting into work and stuff like that, and you start trenching, you say, you know what? Shit, I forgot.
Yeah, so the bedrock he's referring to, again, it's like the rock, like once you start digging down, because like we were talking about earlier, a lot of the stuff that you're bringing in here, like the electrical servicing, you have to absolutely go down at 4 feet. Usually there's clay, and then on the mountain, the more north you go, you start hitting rock. And that probably ends up like, how much more would you say that cost you, like percentage-wise? Like,
this was a very small trench. It cost an additional $4,000 to $5,000 to trench bedrock.
Wow. Okay.
It could have been a little bit less if the lot was bigger. Yeah. But not much. It still would have been $2,000 to $3,000 more.
Okay. So in terms of like the inside, did you have any like hurdles here? Like what did you guys have to do?
There's 2 big ones here. One, when we bought the property, there was all these 2x10 joists that were just laying down. So we thought, you know what, probably the concrete floor right under it, because they were semi-fastened. So we said, you know what, probably the concrete slab under it's in rough shape, maybe need a little bit of topping or self-leveler or something like that. When we came in and took those boards out, it was just dirt.
Yeah,
that was no concrete slab at all.
That's the issue with garages too, because I have other clients that bought like these garage conversion projects. So what happens is like a lot of the stuff with these detached structures, by the time you're getting ready to make an offer, we can only verify so much. So sometimes there's stuff that was not permanent. And I'm guessing that like sometimes it was done, but maybe over time it deteriorated. No one ever touched it again. Sometimes there's portion of garages that are not even legal. Like I had that with a client, and it's like they have to remove it. So you have to make sure you're doing this stuff. Luckily, like I have a way of obviously checking if something exists for a certain period of time on the registry. So we were able to verify that part. Otherwise, sometimes they'll make you remove the whole structure and rebuild it, at which point you're losing a lot of money. So no, that's good to know. I mean, was it like a pretty significant cost, or was it something like that was
repouring a new concrete slab, because now you got to do prep work, and now that's considered a new slab, which means you got to insulate under it, you got to put the granular under that.
So there's a different building code that applies, I guess.
It's almost like you're building new build, right? If there was an existing slab and the slab's in decent shape, you put some insulation on top of it for the garden suite specifically, and then you go with subfloors. But because the slab was in rough shape, they wanted a new slab, just like you would put in for a new house. So it's got to have a solid foundation or sub base under it.
Yeah.
So you put your granular, you compact it, you put your insulation,
Okay.
and then after that you put your vapor barrier and your rebar, and then you pour. So it's a real slab. So it sets you back, depending on the size of the garage, $9,000 to $11,000.
Yeah, so this information here, like this is not, like you can't go Google this stuff. Like this is stuff like you're gonna probably find out because Seif is doing this for him, so he's a contractor. This is stuff you find out on the go. Obviously you're doing a lot of these now, so I'm sure like you're more well acquainted, but this is like golden information. This doesn't cost you like tens of thousands of dollars, but if you don't really understand it, you're in for a surprise.
Yeah, so if you think about it here, the trench, you know, somebody's just looking at things at face value, or you know, you're using unit rates off Google and stuff like that, or not necessarily Google, but you're just looking it up online.
Yeah, which is common.
Which is pretty common, and it's completely fine, and it's good to give you an overall picture, but it's very important to dive into the details when it comes to retrofit, because the square footage price is not a great measure. So something like this, just a couple of small items. The trench sets you back $5,000. This will set you back potentially up to $11,000. That's already $16,000.
Okay, so what about the city? Because this is something everyone has issues with nowadays, right? Like, especially with these, they're newer. I know we've had conversations with other clients too. Was it complicated dealing with the city, with the permitting? Like, is it something that
everything? The problem is everything is so plans examiner and building inspector dependent, specifically depending on the individual. The problem is this concept is new. And the general direction is that you got to build this thing like a new build home.
Yeah.
But it's not a new build. You're working with things that are existing. So the problems come when you have something that's existing that is not in line with the current building code.
Yeah.
So we've had cases where there's an existing slab, perfect shape. You know, we have to trench in some areas to bring the bathroom utilities in there. Yeah. And we saw it was a 7-inch concrete slab, absolute solid. There's nothing wrong with it.
That's huge, right?
And we had an inspector come and say, oh, but you know, you got to have insulation below the slab. So are you going to be digging this up and putting it under?
Now
we're like, no, of course we're not digging it up because the slab is absolutely perfect. So the problem is you sometimes have to have these discussions. And depending how you have the discussion, it could go one way or another. That's why it's a discussion in the first place.
Comes into experience, I guess, and kind of relationship building. So I guess like that's an important thing too. Like for me, I personally like only focus in the Hamilton area, and I think Seif for the most part, like he's very focused. You're Hamilton centric. I think you go a little bit outside too, but because of that, you're able to kind of build rapport with the city. You're able to understand their processes, because a lot of times it's not what's on the paper alone. It's like a very like, they have their own arbitrary decisions they make a lot of times, right? Like the inspectors or even the city sometimes they're like, well, Hamilton likes to see it this way, right? Yeah. So that kind of stuff, it really helps when you're dealing with the right contractor, agent, everybody, because as much as like you might not think it matters, it could cost you the extra $5,000, $10,000. And I think that's still a pretty significant cost, right?
So maybe some like, I think something nice is people always want to know the lessons learned. Yeah. That way I've already paid for the mistakes. So in the front, if I were to go back and redo this again, you see, I always do these on the garden suite, just the first couple. So, and then very quickly you learn that there's kind of better options. So you have this massive window. It's a great idea. But in terms of the utility, if I were to go back for this specific space, I would have done a window 3 feet smaller, and here would have been the main entrance door.
So you would have left the door at the front. Okay.
I would have left the door at the front. So you walk in, kind of in your living area, and then there's still a window, equal amount of natural light because you still have glass in the door.
Now, is that because of like preference or is it cost? Like, what
no, I'll tell you why. Because then in the bedroom where we actually put a backyard, because for me, the landscaping is always an afterthought, which is not necessarily the best thing. Then you could have put a secondary door here or a patio door to go straight out to the backyard.
No, that's important. A lot of people want that.
Because again, these types of projects are new. They're retrofit. So what happens when you go into a retrofit space? You try and maintain existing. Whatever window's there, you kind of keep it there. Whatever door is here, you try and keep it here. And no garage doors from the front. Right? Well, the actual garage door, the overhead one is in the front. But no walk-in door, the man door is always through the side. So we kind of maintained it. And a couple of things sometimes are afterthought. Like this, it's very important to not have those as an afterthought and think about the entire garden suite renovation, inside and out. And the other thing is where the mechanical room is going. Because in an architectural world, many times they have what the footprint of the mechanical room is, and it's really good because they put the assembly on there and exactly how you're supposed to build it, but it's very specific to the equipment that's going in there. If you have duct work, it's like which orientation is going to be where the duct's going to be coming out of. So it's really important to plan out your mechanical room because it could throw off an entire space.
Yeah, so I guess like the important thing again is like working with the right people too, right? Because they'll identify that stuff, so it can save you time, money, everything overall. No, that's good to know. Okay, so I guess we talked a lot about the renos, and obviously like the whole purpose of doing all of this, doing the tough work, doing the big rentals, being creative is to make sure the numbers work. And in the current climate, like there's a lot of turbulence in the market, so we have people don't know what to expect right now. So your numbers have to work. You have to always account for interest rates possibly going up, etc. So Seif obviously took on this project because nowadays in Hamilton, duplex conversions aren't working the same way. Like they might break even, they might be a little negative on cash flow. So the third unit really adds to the cash flow. So originally we picked up the project for around $715.
Yes. And to give people an overview, at $715, when it was a single family home, what would that have rented for?
So at that time, when it was just $715 by itself, the condition it was in, everything, I would say it would have rented out for maybe, if you got lucky, like low 3,000s, probably closer to $3,000. But with the 2 units, the third unit, I know we covered the numbers earlier, it's coming up to 7,000. So when you bought the property, obviously originally it was a single family home.
Yes.
There's tenants inside, so we can't show the other 2 units, obviously for privacy's sake, etc. But from what I recall and what I've seen, it's basically like a brand new house inside as well, top and bottom, like both the upper unit and the lower unit as well.
All our work is the best.
So you basically built like 2 new houses.
Yes.
So you took a single family home, we converted everything there, did the garage unit, so now you have 3 brand new units.
Yeah.
What did that cost you?
It'll probably, if someone is doing this conversion, it'll probably cost you in and around $340,000.
Wow. Okay.
For all 3 units. And what did we do in that 340? The basement was a full gut. Garage was obviously a full gut. Upstairs was pretty rough shape and very little we salvaged. So that's almost like a full gut of the entire home and the garage.
Okay.
But keeping in mind that this is a 1.5 story. It's not like a full 2 story. So the second level is only really 2 bedrooms and a tiny hallway.
Okay. So, and then obviously so with something like that, you have to obviously look at like what the future potential of something like that is, right? So if you were to refinance this, I know you've looked into the numbers. What are you kind of expecting, like ballpark, like maybe today and maybe even down the line?
So that's actually really good. And that's the most important thing about these type of properties where you have garden suites. So the property I bought for $715, and today it costs, or it was appraised, at $915. So there's a $200,000 lift.
And that doesn't even include the garage fully, right?
Okay, so that's kind of the gray area. So to put it point blank, yes, it includes the garage. But the question is, if you dive in deeper, how are they appraising the garage? You're getting pennies on the dollar of the construction cost. You're getting more or less 50 cents on the dollar for the construction cost, which is grossly, grossly undervalued. And in my opinion, the only reason it's like this is because it's a new concept. In any world, if you're adding $1 in real estate, $1 of income to real estate, the property should be going up relatively the exact same value, because you could just do it on a commercial approach with a cap rate, and you'll see how much the property should be worth. But today, you're only getting 50 cents on the dollar for construction. Construction was $120, so you're only really getting a $60,000 lift. So the point is, when you hold on to something like this, over time, that is going to be realized in the market, because the neighbor one day is going to sell. Today, someone might pay $60,000 more. Tomorrow it will be 80. The day after it will be 120, so on and so forth until the full value is reached. So now you get to sit back, enjoy things. Things are still debt servicing because there's $7,000 roughly a month coming in rent. And at the same time, you're going to be getting that extra lift, but as a second round, probably in a couple of years.